This is Hack the Law of Attraction. This is chapter 5, and the name of this chapter is called The God Particle. Quote, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in previous centuries of its existence." End quote. By Nikola Tesla. Please consider getting familiar with the double-slit experiment. The implications are massive, and to say they are life-changing is an understatement. I can't even begin to think of words to describe the spectrum of ramifications for you. I am talking about mind-blowing implications for the world and human life. It is the cry for help for which we have all been yearning. This knowledge is the knight in shining armor, backed by a military force here to rescue you from the evil dragons. The challenge is that scientists have difficulty grasping its spiritual and philosophical implications. They get lost in scientific jargon and are also not immune to secular dogma hemming in on them. This challenge is real because scientists are failing to perceive the metaphysical implications. Many are in denial, and only a few are courageous enough to explore the fact that atheist scientists have ironically quantified God. Let me explain. In the past, God has been described as omnipotent or all-powerful. That God is omnipresent or present all at once through space and time. Here, always, everywhere. That God is omniscient or all-knowing. That God knows all data and knowledge through all time and space. Not coincidentally, the behavior of particles is being described the same way. The omnipresent God particle. A single particle can be present in more than one place at a time. Atomic particles are, first and foremost, waves that spread thinly through all space and time. It is right in front of you, but potentially everywhere else, or omnipresent. God has been referred to as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Quote, "Can a man hide himself in hiding places so I do not see him? Says Yahweh. Do I not feel the heavens and the earth? Declares Yahweh." End quote. Taken from Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 24. Quote, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." End quote. Taken from Revelation chapter 22, verse 13. The omnipotent God particle. A single particle is also described similarly as having what seems to be an infinite amount of energy. A single hydrogen atom contains more energy within its empty space of it than the energy of all mass in our visible universe. That thought is staggering and mind-blowing considering the size and expansion of the universe. To give you an idea, consider that it would take you 100,000 years to traverse our Milky Way galaxy if you travel at 186,000 miles per second. In our single galaxy, there are trillions of stars, some even larger than our sun. Did you know it would take 1 million Earths to complement the size of our sun? Yet, billions and possibly trillions of galaxies exist in our visible universe. Since there is that much energy within a single particle that can create that much mass, what else can be considered all-powerful? The omniscient God particle. What is the law that suggests that particles are all-knowing? Quantum superposition indicates that it is so. This idea is factual because the sound of harmonics in words defines all possibility and observation. Nikola Tesla said, quote, "If your hate could be turned into electricity, it would light up the whole world." End quote. Words define all observations. Words are concepts of perception as awareness collects data from knowledge describing experiences. If observation of waves of infinite energy forces them in place as particles defining time and space, then the words used to describe that phenomenon serve to place that energy or atomic structure as observed phenomena. And this is worth repeating. If observation of waves of infinite energy forces them in place as particles defining time and space, then the words used to describe the phenomenon serve to place that energy or atomic structure as observed phenomena. Spirituality has described God as speaking the universe into existence. Quote, "By faith, we understand that the universe was framed by the Word of God, so that what is seen has not been made out of things which are visible." End quote. Taken from Hebrews 11, verse 3. Jesus is quoted as saying, quote, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will tell this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." End quote. Taken from Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. It was observed that when scientists attempt to observe the interference pattern on the second wall being hit after shooting particles through both slits on the first wall, it created a classical pattern. This action created a massive shift in the way we perceive time itself. As electrons were being shot at the barrier with two holes, scientists delayed their decision to observe the result after the electrons passed through the holes, but before they hit the screen, past the first barrier. In that instant, they decided to observe the electrons. They became solid particles and thus formed the classical pattern. This observation suggests that the electrons went back in time before going through the holes and decided to go through one or the other. The wave function was collapsed by the decision to observe those particles at the end of their trajectory. Please bear with me here for a little. Because your decision to observe the quantum field places solid particles in place, your decision to observe a result in your life, for there is no past, present, or future, then you are creating a construct of particles with your imagination. For example, if you are projecting yourself via imagination by desiring a final result, say a big beautiful home, you are observing the wave function to become that vision in the now. The wave then collapses and calculates the space between where you currently stand and your imagined desired event in an instant. These conclusions teach you that the quantum field will manifest itself as the means or the how in which your desired vision must take place. Yes, so the instant you imagine yourself experiencing something fearful or something you desire, your decision to prolong the vision can add enough energy or force to that vision potentially existing in the quantum field. You create the means of manifestation via the quantum field to experience it by deciding what to observe. The laws of attraction via hypnotic attraction begin to cement the decision, your observation of yourself as experiencing. Once it reaches critical mass, the gravitational force created by your imagined observation will take a life of its own and expand. Once you reach this permanent state of vibration, the universe has to move in your direction so that your imagined projection becomes your reality. It is your consciousness that interacts with the quantum field and directs it. It is your consciousness that adds energy and shapes it, and essentially, you make it what you see fit. Your unconscious and conscious frequencies interact with it always. Your subconscious beliefs reshape it. Your heavily ingrained DNA patterns reconstruct it to match what you are communicating to it. It is the universe via the quantum field that fills in the gaps of experience. It is your karma and your entire broadcast of energetic spectrum that manifests before you all day, every day. learn and begin to operate at a quantum level. Interacting with your own God force. The most glaring conclusion, if you will, is that since you and I are made of a system of atomic structures that are in place in this universe, then the observation must be that we are either an effect or a cause over these laws. This idea may mean that we have fantastic potential, for our awareness can interact with the infinite energy of the quantum field and affect it. Of course, there are arguments, and much of the scientific community may deny the implications that consciousness affects reality at a quantum level. Ultimately, it will be your responsibility to decide whether it is true or not true. In Blueprint for Immortality, the Quantum Code for Life Secrets to Success, you will find integrations of success philosophy, as accepted by the foremost authorities, mainly those with physical manifestations that prove outstanding success. Spirituality and scientific research are incorporating a vision. It is all designed to give you massive parallels for observing data, facts, and interpretation of knowledge. No one has a monopoly over knowledge or wisdom. For those that claim they have been proven time and time again that there was so much they didn't know. I suggest we embrace a humble mindset and accept knowledge progresses into ever-growing branches of knowledge. For example, a dictionary could not anticipate much wording that keeps showing up to describe new phenomena. Technology and the vocabulary that sprung from this movement with all its integrations is a testament to that truth. Scientific research has shown the same pattern. Knowledge begets more knowledge, and the more we think we know, the more we realize how much we don't know. Dogma and believing that you have the ultimate knowledge ever is detrimental and a lie. We must accept that the best way to learn is by expanding our perception and considering a wide range of perspectives describing the same thing. This awareness is the spirit in which all my books were written. Please take all of what you are reading first as things to consider and ponder over. To evaluate its observation and test whether the information is valid. You must take these perspectives under your own unique perspective and experiment in your scientific lab, your own life. You may surprise yourself just as I was and find out how life is but a mirror reality of the consciousness you hold. The reason I emphasize these points is so that you are encouraged to prove these principles for yourself. I suggest that this knowledge, fully integrated, will open up your awareness. When it does, you will know how to have a factual conversation with the God of your experience. For if God is here and now and everywhere, then God is here in you, as He is within me and all. For if the same universe can calculate the shortest distance between what you desire and where you stand, then you have the source of all potential knowledge and wisdom at your mental fingertips. In his greatest works, Napoleon Hill, the Jesus of entrepreneur, spoke extensively on this subject. A massive wave of ultra-successful individuals swear by his teachings as the cause of their success. Your own conversation with infinite intelligence. Napoleon Hill swore by this teaching as one of the foremost common denominators that cause outstanding success in individuals. If you are unfamiliar with Napoleon Hill, which I doubt you are, not if you are reading this book, but in case that is the truth, consider strongly adding Think and Grow Rich and The Law of Success in 16 Lessons to your library. The point I want to emphasize about Napoleon Hill's experience is that he was exposed to the captains of industry that built the American economy during the late 1800s to early 1900s. He had the privilege to interview and learn from the likes of Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Firestone, J.P. Morgan, Charles Schwab, and many others. He had the privilege of interviewing 500 millionaires in his time. His ability to broker their knowledge and integrate a successful personal library of mind mastery is renowned. Today, millionaires and billionaires swear by his compilations of teachings. For this reason, it is hyper-relevant to you to consider the implications of science now having quantified our interaction with God, or as Napoleon Hill suggested, infinite intelligence. And to say that it would be advantageous that we have access to this field of knowledge and wisdom to positively impact our lives is an understatement. For it means most of humanity has been in a massive cognitive and spiritual darkness. For if we can access the mind of God by broadcasting questions to receive the answer to life's more significant questions, and the process it takes to accomplish this will be to accept that your brain is a transmitter and receiver of coded frequencies, then it will become your moral obligation to train to do so. You would then know that your highest visions of self may not be pie in the sky, but potentially a reality. Consider what Nikola Tesla said about his brain, and invariably about your brain. He said, quote, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." End quote. Nikola Tesla was considered insane by his contemporaries. He would talk about early integrations of cell phones and internet technology. That in the future, we will also be able to be teleported across large distances instantaneously. I believe quantum entanglement and quantum tunneling may be integrated into that future technology if this is not happening behind the curtain. Nikola Tesla was described as having experiences where he would receive imaginings of technological constructs in his mind. How do you suppose he could create the quantum leap to the modern world? His vision was massive, for he even suggested that biological immortality, defined by eternal youth, was but a scientific frontier. He said, quote, "If the genius of invention were to reveal tomorrow the secret of immortality, beauty, and youth, for which humanity is aching, the same inexorable agents that prevent a mass from changing suddenly, its velocity will likewise resist the force of new knowledge until time gradually modifies human thought." End quote. That is no small statement. Having come from one of the brightest, most impactful scientific minds to have ever existed, you can be assured that most mainstream media has failed miserably to portray him in the proper, truthful light of who he was. Even today, he's shadowed by Einstein or even Edison. They don't want you to even consider him. Ask yourself, why? But let's get back to the main point of this subject. The most glaring in-your-face observation is found in accepting that prayer to God is most likely the same as having the intention to transmit a frequency to interact with the quantum field in the core of the universe, also defined as infinite intelligence. The implications are massive, for if this concept were to be objectively studied and applied, all the religious and spiritual movements previously recorded will be dwarfed by the effects this decision will have on the planet. It would completely decentralize spiritual and philosophical knowledge. It will free up and sponsor scientific research to continue studying what it means that consciousness can interact and affect the field of quantum physics. What gifts and new knowledge could be downloaded into people's minds from infinite intelligence? What talents could be nourished and sponsored with infinite intelligence at our disposal? What songs or art forms could be created? Could we learn to replicate our bodysuits and download our consciousness into new ones perpetually? Could we harness our life force energy to uphold and revive our present bodysuits? What would happen to illness and disease? How would the world's economic systems change for the better? Would money become redundant or then tossed as old technology? Please consider how much can change if we can access God's suggested highest visions for humanity and learn to implement them. What about now? How can you now use this knowledge to positively impact your life? How can you use it to positively impact the lives of those you love? Consider these ideas found in the Bible and how the prophet Jesus was quoted. He said, "Keep on asking and it will be given to you. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and it will be open to you. For everyone asking receives and everyone seeking finds, and to everyone knocking it will be open. Or who is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, who will give him a serpent?" End quote. Taken from Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 through 11. Can you see the parallel? Can you see the coincidence? If our thoughts only occur in our mind, what then is a thought? Is it not a frequency quantified in the brain? Is it not a generation of energy that happens in the mind? And if this frequency is a vibration of energy that interacts with our body, then is it not significant that its nature is also a wave spread thinly through space and time? He also said, quote, "Have faith in God, for most certainly I tell you, whoever may tell this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and doesn't doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says is happening, he shall have whatever he says. Therefore I tell you, all things whatever you pray and ask for, believe that you have received them, and you shall have them." End quote. Taken from Mark chapter 11, verses 22 through 24. Are the outstanding examples of Jesus' ability to being able to easily affect the field of inexorable agents testimonials of someone introducing new knowledge into the mass? Are the so-called miracles described therein proof of a highly advanced being using the technology of the body in a way we presently cannot understand? Arthur C. Clarke formulated a philosophical observation in which he accepted that, quote, "any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Can we acknowledge then that so-called miracles or magic could be the essence of evidence of sufficiently advanced technology? Was this technology then in the hands of an individual wanting to introduce a new awareness, in fact, introducing new knowledge in order to modify present human thought? Are there sufficiently advanced beings in this universe looking to nudge slow evolving intelligent life forms and desiring to speed their evolutionary process? Could they have observed entropy heavily entangling societies in mass tyranny and oppression? And did such observations lead them to implant individuals to affect change through mass planetary consciousness? If inexorable agents prevent a mass from changing, and therefore knowing that attempting to introduce a massively different frequency form into the equation would cause critical mass failure, then would introducing new consciousness covertly and diplomatically be the safest way to do it? Remember, laws of attraction and friction make up the universal principle, where the universe becomes staunch in making sure bodies of mass within the confines of a defined space are congruent in vibration, or as close as possible. If the different frequencies are two ends of the spectrum, nature will naturally rebel and force separation, often violently. World War II was a perfect manifestation of the evident demonstration of such reality. For the Allied powers desiring to protect freedom and resolve the threat of mass tyranny being heavily manifested under the Nazi powers and the Japanese Empire was, in fact, testimony to that law. Both spectrums of thinking were heavily ingrained in the mass consciousness. Such vibrations, as inexorable as they were, could not and would not be able to share the same space. The universe forces a resolution, and the laws of physics naturally will force subconscious actions between parties to resolve the energy conflict. It was the faith and firm resolve of the Allied powers that forced the mountain to move and be thrown into the sea. Thankfully, there was more faith in the principles of freedom, liberty, and our ability to pursue happiness. It is an understatement we dodged not a bullet, but possibly nuclear warfare and obliteration of the planet. Quote, "But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, without any doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven by the wind and tossed." End quote. Taken from James chapter 5, verse 5 and 6. Can you see how imperative it is for us to eliminate confusion and frustration? That when we are not sure how to handle life's challenges, we'll know that we can turn to the core of infinite intelligence to ask for that wisdom. Asking God for faith and advice is practical. Human history has objectively demonstrated humanity is driven and tossed about by the winds of the sea and the mind of the masses. It is time to tap into our true power and connection to this core of infinite intelligence. We cannot afford to continue to pretend that doing things the way we have been so far is going to do it. Inexorable magnetism will continue to cement all present consciousness, and if the drifting confusion of humanity defines that awareness, such a pattern will become inexorable and reach critical mass. Entropy will force us to pay a dear price. It is time for humanity to learn to connect to this core of infinite intelligence and begin to solve problems at the individual level and then the collective level. Quote, "This is the boldness that we have toward him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he listens to us. And if we know that he listens to us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions which we have asked of him." End quote. Taken from James chapter 1, verse 5 and 6. The universe cannot not hear you. It does nothing but respond and anticipate your vibrations of coded frequencies. Your every thought, word, and intention is a vibration transmitted instantaneously. It reaches the core and it is brought back to you in an instant. It happens before you can think about it. How much more potent, then, should your prayer be now that you know how this works? You now understand that you can ask and receive whatever you desire. You now know your thoughts and entire atomic structure are influenced by the forces that govern the universe. But at the same time, you know those forces can be turned weak against the power of your properly trained mind. Consider the persistence in which you must request and persist as you choose to demand and command that you be given that which you have chosen must be your experience. Quote, "Which of you, if you go to a friend at midnight and tell him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has come to me from a journey, and I have nothing to set before him,' and he from within will answer and say, 'Don't bother me. The door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I can't get up and give it to you.' I tell you, although he will not rise and give it to him because he is his friend, yet because of his persistence, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. I tell you, keep asking and it will be given to you. Keep seeking and you will find. Keep knocking and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. To him who knocks, it will be open." End quote. Taken from Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 9. Jesus illustrated that your real power is found in persistence, your ability to literally command the universe to give you what you desire is considered the foundational principle in all my writings. You must persist because the universe has forces that will push back. Since every action has an equal opposite reaction, you will note that the universe is forced to make you aware of what you don't want. It will literally argue with you and test your force. You will literally hear from your mind as you observe entropy actuating your mind. It will try to convince you to give up and that the answer is no when you command the universe to give you what you desire. Persist and do not give up. Fight it out. But here's a warning. This mental work and literal work are similar to physical workouts. In a very real sense, you are exercising a faculty you haven't used to its full potential. You are broadcasting frequencies that the universe will respond with resistance. You will literally see a mental battle going on in your mind. You must prepare for war. Most people that have learned about the law of attraction and manifesting techniques are frustrated with the lack of personal, physical evidence or results. They went into the battlefield completely untrained and unprepared, not knowing what to expect. I do not want to sugarcoat this for you. You must accept the new nuances that define the law of attraction and how the entire spectrum of creation manifests. Soldiers' first task or training is not to go straight into battle, but to train. When enlisted or drafted, they are trained heavily in boot camp. They are forced to experience massive amounts of mental and physical stress. Their energies are challenged and many are filtered off. Yes, some are sent back home and told they do not belong. In a very real sense, many books on the law of attraction were introduced with a pixie magic dust tone. That the law is a magic wand designed to make all your dreams come true and that all you are to do is rub the genie's magic lamp and all your desires will come true. To some people, this may be a real life experience. Still, for most, there are inexorable agents that prevent their mass energy from changing and opening to receiving what we are broadcasting. So that what we are is cemented inexorably without hope of change. Ironically, this is what the law of attraction does first. But it is time and new knowledge that can remove these hard-to-change patterns in us. Yes, you need a system that can make this happen for you. This system is designed to serve you and support your mental operating systems, giving you high-frequency data and integrated knowledge. It is specifically designed to give you the training and the competence to do battle successfully in the field of creation. Is it your experience that no matter how much you try to visualize and attempted to attract the relationship, money, or health, you could not get it done? Did you feel like instead these processes brought you pain and suffering due to failed expectations? Did it make you more hopeless since you thought you knew what it took to succeed and get what you desire, but it did not work? This experience happened because you were not given an exact system to help you progress in your battles. These experiences are normal. The challenge is accepting the fact that this game is essentially, at its core, an awareness game. You must become fully aware of the game's rules and learn to play, and for that, you need a system that will support you and feed you new knowledge that will modify your thinking through time intervals. This process will turn you into that collective vibration that will cement your desire in place in real life.